Now, one thing that is missing from a smarter goal framework is the actual action plan. Because while setting the goal is wonderful, now you actually have to have goal details. You have to have the details of what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and more importantly, even why you're going to do it. We're going to do, since it is the first episode of the year, and January always rolls around, and in the back of our minds, whether you are a student or an adult, we have that conversation of goals. It's a new year, it's a new me. Not me, I'm sick, but it's a new opportunity to recreate who I am, right? To make an upgrade, of course. So what we're going to do, we're going to break down the S.M.A.R.T.E.R goal framework. Now, this is something that I've gone over before. This is pretty standard literature that is out there on goal setting and goal achievement research. But I take one step further and I do something called the S.M.A.R.T.E.R framework, where it is evaluate and revise at the end of the goal. But what we're going to do today is we're going to specifically talk about the context of a student. So whether a 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade student, what they may be kind of going through in the beginning of the year and what they may be trying to set as a new goal for themselves. So a quick breakdown of the S.M.A.R.T.E.R goal framework. S.M.A.R.T.E.R. So S stands for specific, M is measurable, A is attainable, R is relevant, T is time-bound, and then ER, evaluate and revise. So to have a goal that is a really well-crafted goal, you have to be specific. It has to be something that has a clear, definitive specificity to it, and you'll know whether or not you actually achieve that goal. It has to be measurable. So you can measure whether or not you hit the goal. If I say I want to lose some weight and I lose a pound, well, then technically I lost the weight, but is that really, I want to lose 32 pounds or whatever. Attainable. If I want to lose 100 pounds within the year, well, you could, but you're going to have to do OMAD, 1 meal a day, go on a keto diet, go starve yourself, all this stuff. Relevant. So this is relevant. Now there's other different versions for the R, but this is a relevant to your life and relevant to your situation in your world. So if you are a high school student and you're setting a goal of you want to become a CEO of a major corporation, it's not relevant. It's not something that you need to be worrying about or should be worrying about. And then of course, T is time bound. You have to have a end date in sight, because if you just say, I want to hit that goal someday, we're not going to be able to put our best foot forward in planning out the process behind how we actually go ahead and achieve that goal. And then evaluate and revise, we have to evaluate whether or not we hit the goal and then revise it, figure out what we did wrong, what we did right, go back to the drawing board if we failed, and create a new plan. So I'm going to use myself as an example here of when I was in high school and I was taking the SATs, which is obviously still a thing today. And they suggest you to take it 2 or 3 times. The more time, the more opportunity you have, you are able to use your highest score. So it really doesn't matter. Take it as many times as you can. I took it twice. So the first time I took it, I'm not going to tell you my scores because they were so abysmal. It was really bad. It was really bad. But I clearly said to myself, okay, I'm going to take them again and I want a higher score. So that was a really poor process of setting a goal because I didn't know any of this stuff. I didn't know how to go about this. So I just told myself I'm going to work harder next time, take it again, and hope for the best. Now, I did do one piece of tactical action here, and I signed up for the next year. In school, they offered an SAT review class. So during school, it was one of your periods, you would go through, 6th period, and a teacher would teach you all about how to take the SAT better. And it was the whole year. I think it was like every other day type of thing. So I thought that would be enough. But here's the problem. I didn't work at it. I wasn't emotionally and or mentally invested in that process. Now, to give myself some credit, I was, yes. While I was in the class, I was paying attention. I was trying because I signed up for the class for a reason. I wanted a bigger score. But again, there was no process behind the goal. So let's look at what I didn't do when it comes to the SMART goal framework. Well, it was not specific. I had the intention of just taking the test again and hoping for the best. I didn't say to myself, I want 100 points higher or 200 points higher on both math and verbal. I didn't make anything specific. It was not measurable. Again, I didn't give myself a grade a point increase, or I didn't give myself, for whatever reason, to finish the test faster. Clearly not a good idea, but I didn't give myself any way to measure whether or not I would have been successful. The attainable, well, yes, it was attainable, but it wasn't the fact that I thought through that. It just happened to be that if I took 6 months between the two tests and took this class for the semester or whatever, I should be able to get a better score. Was it relevant? Of course, yes, because it was clearly relevant to what I wanted to do. But maybe not so much, because while the score was pretty abysmal, back then you didn't know what exactly you might be doing, what school you might be going to. So you wanted to kind of get and give yourself every opportunity possible. Time bound. So it was time bound because I signed up for the next test. Now, here's the issue. The specificity and the measurability between the SMART goal was the two that were missing. Okay, that is a huge portion of this, because me hoping for the best didn't give me a point score to hopefully achieve, which then didn't give me any type of emotional push. With saying, let's hope for the best, and I hope I get a better score, well, if I get a better score by, say, 10 points, then I have achieved my goal. So without giving yourself that type of emotional juice and that emotional push to really try hard and say, whoa, okay, if I really want to get 200 points higher in both math and verbal, then I need to do a lot more than just take this course during the day. Evaluate and revise. I did not evaluate it because I was so broken. I'll tell you why. The second score, the second test that I took, the score was, I believe, almost, if not the exact same score. No, I remember. It was the exact same score, but there was like a 10-point or 20-point swap between math and verbal. The exact same thing. So I was so broken and I was so upset, which is so dumb because it's such a dumb thing to be upset about, but that I didn't even bother to evaluate what went wrong and try to take it a third time. I said, well, clearly I made a really poor story. And I said, well, this is just my intelligence. I got the same exact score and I took a whole semester with a course that I tried hard, and this is just stupid and I'm done. This is what it is. It is what it is. So if I could go back in time and hop in my DeLorean, what I would tell my younger self would be a couple things. One, you have to have some type of specific result that you want to see, because again, you have to have that juice behind you. If you, again, as I mentioned, if you tell yourself it's just a little bit better, then you're not going to be able to push yourself. Now, furthermore, what I would also tell myself would be, for the time-bound option, you have to give yourself as many options as possible. Why stop at 2? I could have took it even 3, maybe even 4 times in total, depending on how much time I had before I actually graduated. And I just didn't want to, because I told myself a poor story. So you have to give yourself the options available to see how long you have. If you have more time to be able to achieve the goal, not just go through the motions and take the test, then you have more time. Give yourself as much time as possible. Take the test as often as you can. And I understand that it's another challenge that you have and another thing to put on your plate as a student. That's why junior and senior year, there's a lot going on. Totally get it. And I empathize with you. Now, one thing that is missing from a SMART-ER goal framework is the actual action plan.
I don't have to tell you, students today are way too stressed, overwhelmed, and anxious about their lives and their futures. This is why I do what I do. As a youth speaker, I teach students to step back from the situation, see the choices they have in front of them, make great decisions, and build positive patterns around this process. Whether it's substance abuse, bullying, or stress about their digital lives, the students I've worked with have had some great success. So I want to work with your students. I want to come down to your school and your event and actually teach your students the art and the science of making great decisions. So click the link below and schedule your call with me so I can learn a little bit more about what you're looking for in your next speaker.
Because while setting the goal is wonderful, now you actually have to have goal details. You have to have the details of what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and more importantly, even why you're going to do it. So when you create some of these details behind your goal or action plans or whatever it is, then you can tell yourself, okay, if I want to achieve the goal and I want to get 200 points higher on math and verbal, then what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to sign up for this course. Great. What I'm also going to have to do is I'm going to have to answer, say, for an easy, attainable process, 10 practice questions every single day. If you have 10 practice sessions every single, or 10 practice questions every single day, you're guaranteed, it's a very simple process to hit. You're going to go through 70 questions a week. But more importantly is that once you start with 10, you're probably going to end up doing 15 or 20. It's just natural. So make it easy on yourself and make it consistent. I didn't make it consistent. I went with this process that was kind of handed to me. And I said, well, teacher, I'm here every other day. Make me pass the test. It was just ridiculous. So the action steps behind the goal is super, super important. Now, I want to shift to another example, a made-up example here that we're going to try to work through together and hopefully have more of a better process from this fictional student instead of me taking my SAT test. Let's say a student is a football player and he's a freshman and really wants to make the varsity team. He's on his JV and he wants to make the varsity team as a sophomore. Okay, so how does he go about the S.M.A.R.T.E.R framework? Well, let's take a look. So we're not going to talk about evaluate and revise because he didn't get he didn't get on the team yet. So, by the way, this is a stretch because I know nothing about football, but let's go through it. So if this kid, let's call him Frankie. Frankie's a good name, sure. If Frankie wants to make the varsity team as a sophomore, already it's fairly specific and measurable because the specificity obviously is the fact that he wants to get on the team and he wants to do it as a sophomore. So with that also being said, he has realized that it's time bound automatically because the tryouts are going to be at whatever point, and he's going to have to go to those tryouts at the beginning of his sophomore year or the summer of the sophomore year, probably even the spring of the previous year, whatever. So say if he's the beginning of the year of freshman year, and he has pretty much a whole school year to prep for this. So we got time bound, we got specific, we got measurable. Is it attainable? Well, again, I don't know the specifics of it. I'm just speaking of somebody who's never been on a football field other than marching band. But I don't know. That's something that we would have to find out. And what's a really great example is that, say if I was Frankie's father and I didn't know, if my son Reese grows up one day and he wants to play football and has this aspiration, well, I don't know. So let's see if it actually is attainable. I believe it is. That was my random idea here. But let's figure out and talk to somebody about how attainable it is. I don't want to talk to the coach specifically because the coach is going to say what he or she is invested in and going to give you a skewed answer because that is the person who is going to be, granting you access to the team. But they're going to give you a little bit slightly of a skewed answer. So you want to reach out to somebody who is a dependable person who has a lot of experience playing football and who's been through that process, and find out really if that's attainable. And of course, is it relevant? Well, we don't know. Is Frankie going to be, is Frankie really invested in becoming a lawyer one day? Is he all set to go to pre-law, and go to the highest Ivy League school he can get it, whatever? Well, then is it really that relevant? I mean, maybe, listen, he really loves football, so he wants to do it. It's not, you don't have to be super invested in your career as a ninth grader, but we also have to keep that in perspective because of the fact that if he doesn't make it, it doesn't have to crush his world necessarily. We want to keep things in perspective. So I think that's really important, but is it relevant? Yeah, sure, because he wants it. It is what it is. So what are these action steps that he needs to do? Well, a lot of things that probably I don't know, but I would assume that he has to spend the entire freshman year on the JV team, obviously giving it his all, but he has to also give it his all in so many other respects, because I guarantee it's probably a different coach, but I guarantee the varsity coach is around and they're witnessing what's going on. And every time Frankie is in front of that varsity coach, he has to put on a great impression, right? He has to kind of be on stage every time, right? He has to make sure his game is on point every practice and every game. Because he doesn't know when somebody's watching him, and he doesn't know when somebody may have that impression, hey, you know what? He's really on it. Like, he might have a shot at making varsity next year. We obviously have to put a workout plan in play. We have to, depending on the position, we have to either gain speed or gain strength. We have to get our diet in check. So we have to have a diet plan mapped out for every single day, if you're that serious with it. We have to be studying tape. We have to be watching our position on the field and figuring out what we have to do better to actually learn the sport itself and learn how to be a better football player. There's a million different action steps that we have to take. But again, it kind of comes down to the consistency of these action steps. When will Frankie actually be doing this? When will he put it in his schedule and in his calendar? Because again, to say, yeah, I'm going to review the tape and I'm going to work out every day and I'm going to work on my, passes. I'm going to, whatever. If I'm a punter, I'm going to punt. I don't know, but I'm going to do all these things. It's going to be great. And but if you don't say, okay, but Monday, Wednesday, Friday after practice, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And Tuesday, Thursday before school, I'm going to run this many, miles or whatever. This is just the things that kind of make or break the goal setters from the goal achievers. Now, one other thing I am going to say about goals before we wrap up today is the number of goals a student, specifically in high school, should be making or should not be making. And I believe there is a specific formula. I think there should be 1 large goal and 2 smaller goals. I think it could obviously be pushed to maybe as much as 2 big goals and 2 small goals or 3. But I really, when we start to have any more than 3 or 4 goals, it gets a little bit out of hand and we're not able to really focus on what we need to do on our action steps to achieve these goals, because we've got a ton of stuff going on. We've got homework. We've got boyfriends and girlfriends. We've got dances. We've got plays. We've got sports. We've got all these extra things that we're doing. And life is crazy in high school. So are we really that, committed to 3, 4, 5, 6 goals? Now, if you only have 1 goal, the problem with that is sometimes kids become a little bit tunnel vision. We become a little bit too focused and maybe too obsessed. And high school, in my opinion, my subjective opinion, is one of the best times in your life to experiment and explore. Figure out what you like, figure out what you don't like, because if you're going to go down the path and the system at 17, 16, you're going to be writing down on a college application your major, what you're going to study and invest your thousands of dollars in for the rest of your life. Huge decision, which more than 50% of the students don't know what they want, and they make a mistake, and it's a problem. Another story for another day, but So I think the magic number is one big goal and two small goals. And the way I like to do this is think about percentages. I think this one big goal for the year or for whatever it is about 70% of your efforts and time and mental RAM. And then the two other goals might be 15 and 15%. You could change this percentages to whatever you see fit. 50, 25, and 25. You could do 60, 20, and 20. And math adds up, yeah. So this is just an arbitrary process, but this is something to think about. Not too many, not too little. There's a sweet spot. So thank you so much. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. I definitely did. I hope you were able to speak with your teen about goal setting and not only their SMART goal framework, but their action steps behind this process so they can actually schedule it and be consistent to actually achieving what they want. So if you like today's episode, please hit like, hit subscribe, and hit the bell notification to be notified of any time I release a new video. And if you like today's episode, then you might also like this one right over here.